welcome. My name is Kathy A, and today I'm doing a very special collaboration with a lady whose channel I've been subscribed to for a couple of years now. She goes by the channel name of Geek Out of Water. Her name is Shelly, and I'm just so thrilled that she agreed to do this. I actually reached out to her and asked her, and she's quite busy. I was really surprised. She teaches at a university. She does the makeup thing as kind of a hobby, but yet she puts out like 3 videos every single week. She does like Foundation Fridays, which is what I think originally attracted me to her channel. But what's so endearing about Shelly is that you can tell right away that she's not motivated to lie to you for PR things. She absolutely is methodical in how she explains how things work. She's very, very thorough in her reviews. I mean, like where I would just kind of throw something on and then say, well, 8 hours later it didn't work for me or whatever. She would go into actual details on how things penetrated part of this skin, and then she'd show close-up pictures. She would go through the whole thing. She tests things out, and I trust her, and I really think that the people that you can trust are the ones that you want to watch, because this is the real story. And I think that she's just a sweet person. She's honest, she's really funny, very, very dry sense of humor. And she's quirky, and I just really get a kick out of it. And I always think that, when you're using your time on YouTube, you're spending time with people that you'd probably want to hang out with in real life. And I think that that's something that I feel about Shelly. I think that, I wish I lived next door to her, because I think we'd have a blast, but she has like 4 rescue cats, and she's like, and once in a while one of them will wander into her videos. I think that's hilarious. But anyway, I am collaborating with Shelly today. We have kind of messaged back and forth a few times, and I feel like I know her from the videos, though. I mean, she's just one of these very, very naturally appealing people. So, and if you have come over to visit me from Shelly's channel, hello, thank you for coming, and hopefully you'll like the show. I'm 61. My name's Kathy A. That's actually my middle initial, and I used to have to call myself Kathy A. To differentiate myself from somebody else that was in my class at school, and it kind of just stuck. I mean, in the 80s I was DJ Kathy A. When I did that work for a while. But anyway, that's where the Kathy A comes from. I know it sounds really weird to people, but so today we decided to collab on the topic of our top 5 favorite concealers for dry skin, because we both have the problem of occasional patches of dry skin, and I have it along with the age thing, because I'm about 20 years older than her. Well, maybe not quite that much, but I mean, I'm older than her, okay. So I have the problem of wrinkles and texture. So a lot of times, especially with concealer, when I'm putting concealer under my eyes, I get this kind of lace, it looks like I put a piece of lace over my face. You get that kind of lacy pattern. So that's a combination of dry skin and the wrinkles and under eye lines. Now, I don't use Botox or fillers. I'm not one of those folks, so what you see is what you get, and we should embrace aging. We shouldn't fight it. It's not a crime. We are really honored to be here. So, first thing I think is really important to mention about concealers before we get into the actual concealers is that you really need to prepare your face. Your skincare matters, because if your skincare is crummy, no matter what you put on your face afterwards, it's going to look crummy too. And that if you are finding that people say that they love this foundation or that concealer or whatever, and you try it and it looks like crap, well, I think part of that could be your skincare routine. You may not be prepping your skin properly so that when the concealer or whatever goes on, that it goes on smoothly and stays there. So I do wash my face with a good cleanser. I hydrate, and I do use eye creams. I rotate between the two. If you're into drugstore, and I do promote drugstore whenever possible. If there's a drugstore item I feel is as good or better than a high-end, I'm all there. I'm a bargain girl. So this is one of my favorite eye creams, and it's from number 7. This is the Lift and Illuminate Triple Action Eye Cream. And I just put a little drop on my ring fingers, and I just kind of pat it in. I tap it in all around my eyes, and yes, I get right close to this inner section here, because as you age, of course, your eyes sink into your eye sockets, and it causes this bone to protrude out, and it also makes more wrinkly, fleshy skin around the inner part of your eye, and it goes dark. It looks dark. So concealer, you can use it for brightening, you can use it for coverage, you can cover with, you know, like blemishes and age spots with your concealer, or you can just kind of brighten underneath your eyes a little bit and inside the dark areas so you don't look so tired. I notice that if I don't use concealer, or if it wears off, people will say to me midday, they'll go, "Oh, you look so tired, you feeling okay?" And it's like, no, it's my concealer wore off. So anyway, so the other eye cream I do use, and this is a SARANGHEE, it's called. You can get that online. I think their full skincare line is really wonderful, and I'm actually in one of their ads, which I didn't get paid for, but I'm in one of their ads. I don't mind because I do like the product, but it's one of those things that comes up in Facebook, and I was just really surprised I was in there. But I do like the product, so like I'm good with that. But SARANGHEE is the name of the brand. It's a Korean brand, and I think Korea is just outstanding for skincare. In the last few years, they have really accelerated in, you know, I think they're top of the heap with skincare right now. There are different types of concealers for brightening and for coverage, but I think there's two other areas I think should be addressed when you're talking about concealer, and one of them is redness and rosacea. When you have a lot of redness and rosacea, sometimes a concealer isn't really enough, and I think that they have color correctors, which they're called, and one of them is really quite good. This is from IT Cosmetics, and this is the Bye Bye Redness, and what it is it's just a beige kind of cream, and I believe this does come in different colors, and I'll just show you on this spot here. It covers redness with a base shade, and then when you put your makeup over the top of that, it has kind of changed the color of your rosacea to a more neutral color, so that when your makeup goes on, you don't see the rosacea. And I think it's a better step than using concealer over that, so I consider it a rosacea and age spot concealer, and that is the IT Bye Bye Redness. If you have a lot of blueness under your eyes, and a lot of people genetically they have this, it's a biology thing, it's not your fault, it's just a lot of folks have dark blue rings under their eyes, and to counter this, I think you need a color corrector. This is something that a concealer doesn't really help you with. A color corrector will, and the opposite of blue on the color wheel is like an orange shade. So this is from PIXI, and this is probably one of the best color correctors out on the market. And PIXI is kind of a drugstore brand. They do sell it in Target, and they do have their own website. I think she's from Sweden. It's not an American brand, but it is pretty well known, and they have some good quality products there. But this is like one of her best products, and I think this is something you should check out if you do have a lot of blueness. And when you put a color corrector on, you're going to want to just put it on the area that's blue. You don't want to put it all over your face. You don't want to use it as your concealer. I think it works really well to cover just the discolored section, the blueness. And then again, put your concealer and your foundation over the top, and it should balance you out really well. So concealers, let's start. I'm the low end of the totem pole here. I'm going to go by my, I don't want to say least favorite, I'll just say out of all of these will all work really well for you, but some I like a little bit better than others for different reasons. Now these I like because they are extremely inexpensive. These are the most inexpensive ones, and the first one is the Wet n Wild, and this is the Fair Beige. It's a little bit light. This is the concealer corrector. I think it's a photo focus. It's very, very light. You want to get a shade that's actually a half a shade lighter than your regular skin tone to a shade lighter at most. This is a little too light, and it's really hard with concealers. You have to kind of play around to get a good shade. What I do with this is I usually use one of those shade darkeners to make it slightly darker. And to apply concealer, I like to use either a tapping motion. I look up and I use a tapping motion. Tap it in. That's an old Japanese thing. They used to tap it in. Or you can take a really nice thick brush. I love this one. It's almost like an eye blending brush, but I just tap that in. And by tapping that in, you're tapping it into all of that crepey skin so that it doesn't pool in all the little crepies. And then immediately you need to follow with some powder. Now there's some great powders on the market. This one's very inexpensive. You can get it on Beautylish. This is the RCMA powder. It's something that most makeup artists use. It's well known. A colorless powder is probably the best thing, because if you get something with a little color to it, it might be too dark, and then it'll look dark under your eyes, and that kind of cancels out what you wanted to do in the first place. So I would take that same little brush and go right over in a tapping motion, right over, to set that concealer. You need to set your concealer because when your eye's constantly moving and moving all that skin around, all that liquid that's on your skin is going to just kind of bounce against each other, and the friction's going to cause it to go into the little indents and creases and things. So you're going to wind up having it pool in those, and you're going to get all these cracks and all that lace look, and you don't want that. So you do want to set it immediately. As soon as you put the concealer on and you've tapped it in, I always like to have a magnifying mirror, and I always look in the magnifying mirror and tap out anything that looks like it's pooling, and then I go right away to my powder. There's some beautiful, more expensive powders. The Charlotte Tilbury powder. Again, don't go dark with that, go with the lighter one. I like the light shade of that, and again, you would just tap it in underneath, and that holds that from the friction. It keeps it from the friction of banging into each other and getting into pooling into all those little creases, so you don't want to do that. Laura Mercier has some wonderful under eye blurring, under eye brightening powders. Same thing. I don't use a huge brush to do this. I usually use either just my little blending brush, or I'll use my finger and tap it in. Just tap it in. You don't need to use a whole lot. And also with concealer, you don't need to use this big, you see these girls on YouTube, and they do this big swish, like, you see this, the swish, they go like this under their eye, and it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? So they're kind of using it almost like a foundation extension, and it really doesn't work very well with older eyes. I think you want to keep it more, you know, a little bit less is better. So that's why I think application is really important. Now you could use a dampened beauty blender and tap in as well. If you don't want to use your fingers, you can just tap it in with a beauty blender. And I do like these from ECOTOOLS. I think they're nice. They have that nice ridge on there. You can get right up in there. I think that's a great idea too. It's really a personal preference on how you feel. The second concealer that I like that's very inexpensive is the LA Girl Pro concealer, and this is a brush style. You squeeze it a little bit and it comes out the brush, and again you want to tap it in rather than swoosh it in. Tap it in, and it gets into all those creases a little bit more evenly than if you swish it. If you swish it, you make swishy marks, and it causes crease lines. It really does. Not physically, but it looks like crease lines when you do that. So you just want to tap it in. Tap it. Tap, tap, tap. And I do like this. I think it's one of my favorite drugstore. I mean, both of these, the Wet n Wild and this, are, I would just say the shade range is a little funky, and you really have to kind of experiment around on a good shade for you, because these are completely different shades, and there's a huge difference between this shade and the next shade up, and also the next shade down is extremely white. So you've got I mean, if you're really, really pale, you're going to love that, but I use the really pale one as kind of a color corrector for my foundation if it's too dark. So I find a use for things, can use it. Next on the line is a tie, and I'm going to say that these two are a tie because I think they're the same formula. This is fairly new from L'Oreal. This is the Infallible Full Wear Concealer, and then this is the Maybelline Age Rewind. These two puppies have the same mama. I mean, these two are both from L'Oreal. L'Oreal owns Maybelline, and it just goes to show when they come up with a brand new concealer that looks suspiciously like the same formulation of this with a different applicator, I'm thinking it's the same formula. I do like this very much. A teeny bit goes a long way. I'm just going to put a little dot on here for you, just a dot. I just want to show you, this just spreads out like you wouldn't believe. It's huge. It goes all the way. If you just put like 1, 2, 3 dots under your eye of this and just tap it out, you're going to find it does the whole area. And if you have any blemishes, you can tap it on those. I have redness under my chin. I tap it on that. Out of the two, I actually prefer the L'Oreal, even though I'm not a fan of the brand. L'Oreal, I do like this because of the application better. The Age Rewind is kind of a classic. People had this sponge tip on the top. I take mine off and then I twist this out onto a flat card, and then I tap it in that way with my finger. I tap it in. I don't like that sponge. I don't think it's very hygienic, so I don't use it. But I would say that these two are a tie because they reacted the same way on my skin. They looked exactly the same. There's a slight variant on the colors here, but that's just because I have different colors. But I think I like this. I think this is really good. And out of all of the drugstore foundation concealer kind of things, I think this L'Oreal one, and I think it's fairly new to them, the Full Wear, I've been using probably about a week and a half, and I think I had just seen a display on it and grabbed it, so I don't know how available it is in your area, but it's worth a try. And the Maybelline Age Rewind, if you like that, you're going to like the L'Oreal Full Wear. Charlotte Tilbury takes the next spot, and this is number 4, I believe. I know, 4 plus the 12 things I talked about prior to this. This is the Magic Away concealer. It's a liquid concealer, and I don't know if you can see this. I'm going to bring it up real close, but you can see there's a little window here. You can see where the product is and how far down it goes, so you can see how much you have left. It pushes up. Now this has one of those annoying sponges just like the Age Rewind does, but I'm tolerating it. It's working really well for me. It goes on really, really smoothly. It blends out nicely. The formulation is beautiful. It lasts all day, and that's really important for me because I don't like to touch up my makeup when I'm at work. So this is just a marvelous concealer. It is the Magic Away concealer. In the number 1 spot is, I think they're my favorite brand for foundation and concealer in general. It is the YSL Touche Eclat. This is, you push it up from the bottom, it comes out, the hook comes out the top of the brush. And this one has a slightly pink cast to it. It's very brightening under the eyes. This is more what I would call a brightener rather than a concealer. So I would use any of these other ones to conceal blemishes and darkness. This one I would use to brighten with. I think it's got that kind of role in my collection because I don't have a lot of things in my collection. So I think this is just a marvelous concealer that is a brightener. And again, you lighten it up. It does give kind of a radiance to your skin. It looks beautiful there. I think YSL has some outstanding products, and the Touche Eclat line, I also have the Touche Eclat All 3-in-1 Glow, I think it's called, or All-in-One Glow. That is my favorite foundation right now. So I think this Touche Eclat is number 1 for me, and it's a brightener for under eyes. It makes your eyes look awake, and I think that's a wonderful thing. So combined with these other different things, you can come up with a beautiful eye, even with a lot of texture and lines underneath. And with the right powders applied the correct way, and with the color correctors, and underneath those with the correct eye creams, you're good to go. Test at 11. Anyway, I want to thank my buddy Shelly for doing this collaboration with me, and I am going to now go over to her channel and have a look at her video with her top 5 favorite concealers, because I know they might be different than mine, and if there's something I haven't tried, I'm definitely going to try it, because she's really, really good at figuring things out with concealers. So I hope all of you are having a wonderful week and have a beautiful day. Take care. Toodles.